Bulking is not an excuse to get fat. Bulking is not an excuse to get fluffy. You can build muscle while bulking without ending up looking like you could apply for my 600-pound life. To gain as much muscle as possible, as effectively as possible, bulking is a great idea. But instead of doing it so fast and so intensely that you just get fat, you should just aim to be in a slight calorie surplus, around 300 to 500 calories over your caloric maintenance. This will mean you will gain around half a pound or a pound of weight in a week, every single week. And if you are training correctly, if your diet is good and your protein intake is quite high, that pound or half a pound you're gaining will mostly be muscle. But a small bit will be fat, which is completely inevitable when you are bulking up. Bulking shouldn't be seen as this big break in your diet where you can just eat whatever you want, because that's a great way to alter your physique for the worse forever. These big bulks and dirty bulks that you're doing, which I've been a victim of too, can have permanent impacts on your physique. And you may end up not being able to shed the fat off that you've gained during your bulk when you eventually cut. Let's get out of the way. The best way to build muscle is through bulking, but you can't just bulk in this kind of stupid way where you just eat whatever you want, you don't track your calories, you just, have all the junk foods, you are in a 4,000 calorie surplus. That is silly. That is how you get fat. That is how you ruin your progress. Let's do it a lot more strategically. How about we figure out our calorie maintenance and just go over a few hundred calories? Literally, that's it. Every single day, a few hundred calories, an extra meal a day. But the main principle is the foods you are eating are staying the same. So, for example, say you eat 4 meals a day and they're all whole foods, meats, vegetables, fruits, etc. When you're bulking, you'll just add another meal on, 5 meals a day, but that extra meal will be the same meal. It'll be the meats, the fruit, the vegetables. Obviously, I'm not saying to just only eat those foods. You're allowed to, sometimes have some fun, have the junk foods, of course. But for most of the time, you're eating those good whole foods. And when you're bulking, it's the exact same. You're just eating more. You're focusing on just getting maybe an extra meal in a day, an extra meal and a snack in a day. That is how you're going to start building muscle, because you're giving more nutrients to your body, you're giving excess calories to your body. And when you train hard, when you're bulking, you will build a lot more muscle. Yes, you are going to, put on the tiniest bit of fat, but you can shed that fat off in a few weeks if you train properly, if you diet correctly. Because if you're dieting in the right way, you're eating mostly the whole foods, you're not in this massive surplus, you won't be putting on that much fat. At the most, you'll put on maybe 5 pounds by the end of your bulk of just fat. So, and that's quite worst case scenario. Well, not worst case, but that's quite an extreme end. You could easily lose that in like 4 weeks. Just a disclaimer, my full aesthetic body course is in the link in the description. It teaches you how to build the aesthetic body and get in the best shape of your life. Go check it out, link in the description. If you want to build a lot of muscle, bulking is the best option. And you shouldn't be scared of this tiny bit of fat gain that you will eventually see or inevitably see when you're doing this bulk. You are going to put on a little bit of fat, but if you bulk in the right way, if you're in a slight surplus, you're eating the good whole foods the majority of the time, you will literally see 80% muscle gain, 70-80% muscle gain, 30-20% fat gain. That's it. And you'll lose that fat in a few weeks once you've done your little gaining phase or your bulk phase. So instead of just doing these crazy bulks where you just eat whatever you want, I understand you want to do it. We all want to, go and eat these amazing foods all of the time, but you genuinely will destroy your physique doing that. And listen, I'm someone who is quite a foodie myself. I love eating a lot of food, but you have to be strategic with it. You can't just eat in 3,000 calorie surplus every single day and expect yourself to, not gain much fat at all and call it bulking. That's not bulking. That's genuinely just gaining weight. That's getting fat. So instead of bulking in this way, be a lot more strategic. Start, really slowly in quite a slight calorie surplus and eat the good whole foods still, get high protein in, train intensely, because you're going to have these excess calories in you. You're going to be able to train even harder. And you're going to be putting on so much muscle in this bulking phase. And the bulking phase can be, 10, 12 weeks of you just bulking in a slight surplus. And then once you've done that, you would have put on 2-3 times the amount of muscle you would have put on if you were just in your maintenance calories. But now you've put on so much more muscle, and the only caveat is you have a tiny bit more fat, which you can literally just lose in a few weeks. So don't be too disheartened if you think, oh, I don't want to bulk now because, I'm going to put on a little bit of fat. Literally, if you bulk in the right way, you won't put on much fat at all. Like if you do a lean, clean bulk where you're in a slight surplus, eating the good whole foods, training hard, you will just be putting on muscle basically. A little bit is going to be fat, that's inevitable. But, who cares if in winter you're a few pounds heavier? No one's seeing your physique anyway. You'll lose that in a few weeks, and by summer you will have put on 2 times the amount of muscle. You would have lost that fat, and you're going to have an amazing aesthetic build. So if you're someone who wants to build muscle really quickly, bulking is the best option. But bulking isn't just an excuse to get fat, destroy your diet, eat all the foods you want. It's not actually. It's just a gaining muscle phase where you're in a little bit of a surplus, eating a bit more, but you're still sticking to the clean whole foods the majority of the time, allowing yourself a little bit of flexibility where you have some of the junk foods. But you want to keep that pretty low because, we want to be eating the good whole foods, which are going to promote muscle growth and allow us to keep as much fat off us while we are bulking up. And I'm telling you this from experience. I did a massive bulk. I was 83.6 kg, 5 months ago now. I'm now 67 kg. I maybe put on, a few kg of muscle. Sure, that's great. I put on so much fat, and when I came to cutting, it was basically a weight loss transformation. It took so long. The cut was difficult. It felt like it was going on forever. My energy levels were low. I'm speaking from experience. Do the clean, lean bulks and be in a slight surplus so you don't have to save your ass when you get to cutting. If you do these really small bulks, not these crazy big ones you see on social media where people are just eating 10,000 calories a day and calling it bulking, you're just getting fat. That's not bulking. That is not the correct way to do it. You genuinely will ruin your physique. If you do these massive bulks a lot of the time, I don't want to be the one to tell you this, but say you've done 5 big bulks like in your whole life where you've put on so much fat and you're in this massive surplus eating anything you want. Your physique right now is never going to look as good as it could do. It genuinely won't, because you've put on so many fat cells, and these fat cells, they don't just go away, they just get smaller and smaller and smaller. So once you put these fat cells on, they are on you. They are on you somewhere. They've just gotten a lot smaller. So you have altered your physique permanently by doing these massive bulks. So please do the smaller bulks, slight surplus, clean, healthy foods, training hard. All of the, weight you're going to be putting on, or not all of it, the majority of the weight you're going to be putting on is just going to be lean muscle. And then you'll get to a point where you're happy with the muscle you've put on, you're happy with the physique you're at right now, and you just want to lose a bit of fat. Bang, you cut down for a few weeks and you've lost, all the fat and kept all the muscle. My full aesthetic body course is in the link in the description. It basically teaches you how to build the aesthetic body and get in the best shape of your life. Go check it out, link in the description.